flames. This right here is an embodied form of the violet ray spectrum. Tap in and tune in Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Grand Rising with ChristoLight, your sacred space for discovering the Ascended Masters in crystal healing. Ashe.
Before a cult asks for anything, it does this one thing first. It doesn't start with rules. It starts with attention. Total, overwhelming attention. More than you've ever gotten from anyone. Psychologists call it love bombing. It floods you with validation before you can ask questions. It feels like finally being seen. That feeling is the hook. Once you feel that connected, doubt feels like betrayal. So you stop questioning, not because you're weak, because you're human. This isn't just cults. It's jobs, relationships, online groups. Same move, different mask. So ask yourself, when's the last time someone gave you attention before they asked for something?
Grand day, grand rising, everyone, and welcome in to a fresh new episode of Grand Rising with ChristoLight. I am your host, Marcus ChristoLight of Sacred Light Healing and Wellness, and we are continuing our deep dive and exploration down the rabbit hole of this third dimensional reality. And yesterday we talked about the ever-growing topic and focus of plant medicine safety and plant medicine usage. And we were able to really clarify and talk about, some of the purposes behind the most recent nationwide experiment regarding a holistic doctor, Dr. Samuel, and also one of his clients at the time that resulted into a death situation due to the components of plant medicines used, as well as the heat and sauna. And again, just peace and prosperous rest to that soul and everyone involved as well. And if you guys were able to check that out, feel free to watch the replay on the YouTube channel, Sacred Light Broadcast Network. You can find it under playlist, like Grand Rising. So we're going to keep on talking about these very difficult topics that have been in the shadows of our humanity for a long, long time on this earth, over hundreds of years. And we're going to be continuing by talking about how to identify and how to navigate cults. So some of us, we may have experienced a cult before and gotten out of one. Some of us may have been recruited and almost joined a cult. And some of us may be in a cult, and maybe we've had the signs, we've had the feelings deep in our core, but maybe we need confirmation on what it is that we actually feel as true and how to navigate and to be able to leave and get yourself out of a situation and scenario like a cult. And there's a lot of jokes that go around about cults and spiritual communities being cults and all sorts of things. And I just wanted to say it's a very, very life-changing topic and focus. Cults come in many different forms as well. Cults can come as a dogmatic religion where they don't allow you to believe anything outside of their own circumference of beliefs. And if you do believe anything outside of it, then you're demonized or you're, thrown out, kicked out, or you're even treated even badly. There's that kind of things, going on with the religious kind of cults. We have the cults that don't allow you to be able to see your family or interact with family. You got cults where they want you to sacrifice all of your personal life and all the things that you have going for you in your life and sacrifice it all for the sake of the cult or for the group or for the leader. And, those are the kind of things to look for when it comes to these things. But we're going to be deep diving and we're going to be going really deep into what this looks like. We're have many people sharing many perspectives. I'm also going to have some good articles and reads for you guys on the kind of signs to look for and how to navigate it. So I'm going to make us all a video, and it's going to help open us up into identifying a cult and what they can do to control their members.
You might have heard of the term cult, but what exactly is a cult and how can you identify one? Hey, it's Dan Zimmerman and welcome back to Illustrate to Educate. In this short video, we'll dive into an explanation of cults, covering key characteristics, Stephen Hassan's bite model, examples, and some important considerations. And if you find this video to be helpful, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and consider supporting the channel by becoming a member like these fantastic members here. A cult is generally a group that revolves around a set of unusual or extreme beliefs and practices, often centered on a charismatic leader who demands total loyalty. In simple terms, cults are groups where a leader or core belief system exerts a strong influence over every aspect of its members' lives. One useful framework for understanding how cults maintain such control is the bite model, developed by cult expert Stephen Hassan, which we will look at in a minute. Next, let's look at 5 key characteristics of a cult. First is charismatic leadership. Cults typically have one or a few leaders who claim to have special knowledge or divine insight. This leader's word becomes almost unquestionable among the members. Second is unusual beliefs and practices. The belief system in cults are often very different from mainstream society views. They might include apocalyptic visions, secret teachings, or claims that only members can access the truth. Third is control and isolation. Many cults use strict rules and practices to control members. They often isolate individuals from family and friends and closely monitor daily life. This isolation helps the group maintain power over its members. Fourth is exploitation. In some cases, cults take advantage of their members financially, emotionally, or even sexually, further deepening the dependency on the group. Lastly is high commitment. Members typically invest significant time, money, and personal energy into the group. This deep commitment can make it very difficult to leave, even if the group's practices begin to cause harm. The bite model of cult control, developed by Stephen Hassan, provides a comprehensive way to understand the mechanisms of control in cults. B stands for behavior control. Cults often dictate many aspects of daily life, including how members dress, what they eat, when they sleep, and even how they interact with others. This rigid structure limits personal freedom and reinforces dependence on the group. I stands for information control. Controlling the flow of information is a key tactic. Cults may censor outside sources, restrict access to alternative viewpoints, and use propaganda to reinforce their beliefs. By managing what members see, hear, and read, the group can maintain a closed system of ideas. T stands for thought control. This involves shaping members' thinking through indoctrination and repetitive messaging. cults employ thought reform techniques that discourage independent thinking and encourage adherence to the group's ideology. Rituals, repetition, and the framing of dissent as dangerous or sinful are common tactics. E stands for emotional control. Cults exploit emotional vulnerabilities by fostering fear, guilt, or a sense of inadequacy. By manipulating emotions, leaders can make members feel dependent on the group for validation, support, and even identity. Next, let's look at some examples of cults. First is the People's Temple, which was led by Jim Jones. This group is infamous for the mass suicide in Jonestown in 1978, where over 900 followers died after being manipulated into drinking a poisoned beverage. Second is Heaven's Gate. This UFO-oriented cult believed that suicide would allow them to ascend to a higher existence aboard a spaceship following a comet. In 1997, 39 members died in a mass suicide. Next is the Manson family, led by Charles Manson. This group convinced its members to commit a series of murders in the late 1960s under Manson's extreme and manipulative influence. Lastly is NXIVM. Originally presented as a self-help organization, NXIVM was later exposed for exploiting its members financially and sexually, with leaders exerting extreme control over their lives. Lastly, let's look at some important considerations. The term cult can be controversial. Some scholars and experts prefer the term New Religious Movement, NRM, when describing groups with unconventional beliefs, to avoid the pejorative implications of the word cult. Not every group with unconventional beliefs is dangerous or harmful. Many simply have ideas that differ from mainstream society. By combining traditional markers of cult behavior with the insights of the BITE model, we gain a clearer picture of how these groups operate and why their control over members can be so intense. Did you find this video about cults to be helpful? If so, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Illustrate to Educate to support more simple and objective videos on topics that matter. And last but not least, I'd like to give a special welcome to the newest professor member, Davis Cragen. Thank you so much for your support of the channel.
All right. So let's dive in with our first article and screen share text to go over when it comes to identifying the signs of a cult, how to recognize the red flags. All right. Don't always look dangerous at first. In fact, many cults represent themselves as self-help groups, religious movements, social clubs, wellness programs, or even business opportunities. They often promise belonging, purpose, personal growth, or secret knowledge. Over time, however, these groups can become controlling, manipulative, and harmful. Understanding the signs of a cult is essential for protecting yourself and others. This post breaks down the most common red flags and explains why they matter and helps you think critically about groups that may not be what they claim to be. So what is a cult? Before identifying warning signs, it helps to clarify what a cult is. A cult is not defined by its beliefs alone. Instead, it is characterized by extreme control over members, often exercised by a leader or inner circle. Cults tend to discourage independent thinking, isolate members from outside influences, and demand loyalty above all else. Not every conventional group is a cult. The key difference lies in behavior, control, and manipulation. Not how unusual the beliefs seem. So again, it's not about the beliefs. It's about the behaviors, the controls, and the manipulation along with the beliefs. So number one, a charismatic leader who is above questioning. One of the most common signs of a cult is a leader who is treated as infallible or on a pedestal. This leader may be described as the one who knows the truth, chosen, enlightened, or specifically gifted. Someone who must be obeyed without question. Members are often discouraged or outright forbidden for criticizing the leader. Doubt is framed as weakness, ignorance, or betrayal. Why is this a red flag? Healthy organizations allow leaders to be questioned, challenged, and held accountable. When one person has absolute authority, abuse of power becomes far more likely. Number 2, the us versus them mentality. Cults often divide the world into two groups. Us, the group, the enlightened, the saved, versus them, the outsiders, the critics, the non-believers. Outsiders may be described as dangerous, ignorant, evil, or manipulated. Members are told that the only group truly understanding reality. Why is this a red flag? This mindset isolates members and makes it easier to dismiss criticism. If everyone outside the group is wrong, quote unquote, members stop seeking balanced perspectives. And this is how you become conditioned. And then you become so conditioned that you just believe anything that the leader is telling you. Even if it's like, oh, well, your family doesn't care about you because they don't see the world the same way as you. And they start pushing that type of agenda. And this moves us right into it. Pressure to cut off friends and family. A major warning sign is when a group discourages or forbids relationships with non-members, including close family. This can sound like they don't understand your growth, they're holding you back. Anyone who questions us is toxic. Over time, members may lose their entire support system outside of the group. So be wary of that. Be wary if they're trying to get you to stay away from your friends and family and basically only give your time and energy specifically. Why this is a red flag? Isolation increases dependence on the group, making it harder to leave and easier to control behavior and beliefs. Number 4, control over daily life and personal decisions. So cults often exert control over seemingly small aspects of life, such as what you wear, what you eat, how you spend your time, who you can date or marry, where you live or work. And it's crazy because we're going to get into this, but this falls into families, religious organizations, as well as other organizations. And believe it or not, some people are born into families that are cults, and then they raise their children in a cult and don't allow them to see, think, or experience outside of the box that they put them in. So, that comes with control over what you wear, what you eat, spend time, date or marry, and live and work. These are justified as for your own good or necessary for spiritual or personal growth. This is a red flag because healthy groups respect personal autonomy. Excessive control erodes independence and identity. Discouraging critical thinking. So if a group teaches that questioning is dangerous, sinful, or disloyal, that's a serious warning sign. So in dogmatic churches, when they like to frame you as the bad kid or too much because you question something that's being said by the pastor, that's a red flag right there for sure. You may hear phrases like, just have faith, don't overthink it. Doubt comes from negative influences. Researching outside sources will confuse you. Members are often told to rely only on group-approved information. This is a red flag because critical thinking is essential for personal freedom. Groups that fear questions usually have something to hide. Manipulation, guilt, or shame. So cults frequently use emotional manipulation to control members. This may include fear of punishment, failure, or rejection, guilt for not doing enough, shame for having doubts or personal needs. Members may feel they are never good enough and must constantly prove loyalty. This is a red flag because emotional manipulation keeps people compliant and dependent rather than confident and self-directed. Number 7, we have exclusive access to the truth. So many cults claim they alone possess special knowledge or hidden truth that outsiders cannot understand. This may be framed as secret teachings revealed only after commitment, higher levels of knowledge unlocked through obedience, a belief that all other systems are false or corrupt. This is a red flag because truth does not require secrecy or loyalty to exist. When information is deliberately withheld or restricted, it's often used as leverage. Next, we have financial exploitation or pressure. So a common sign of a cult is pressure to give money, sometimes far beyond what is reasonable. This can include mandatory donations or investments, pressure to give until it hurts, lack of transparency about how money is used, encouragement to work for free, or a very low pay. This is a red flag because of ethical organizations are transparent and do not pressure members into financial hardship. Number 9, gradual escalation of commitment. Cults really demand everything at once. Instead, they use a slow step-by-step process. Number 1, friendly introduction. Number 2, small commitments. Number 3, increased time and emotional investment. Then number 4, greater control and sacrifice. By the time the group becomes extreme, members may feel too invested to leave. This is a red flag because gradual approach makes manipulation harder to recognize in the moment. It's a good one to talk about too because, this is why you gotta know who's around you because they be watching you and they watch your body language, they watch your moves, they watch how easy it is for you to psychologically follow a command, and they also see how you react when they do certain things. And the thing is like one of the easiest ways for gangs and cults and things like that to initiate you is by drawing you in with a friendly way and then asking you gradually to do certain things for them. And then next thing you know, they're asking you to do things that are illegal for them, or they're asking you to do things that put you in danger for them. And then they just keep on building that bond and that deepening of connection through such experiences. And then next thing you know, you're emotionally invested and you're able to be controlled more greater. Number 10. So anytime that leaving is brought up or you want to talk about leaving, and that is treated as betrayal, or you're guilted or shamed, those are definitely signs. So you might be shunned or ignored, publicly criticized, even blackmailed, or blamed for any problems in the group. This is a red flag because healthy groups allow people to come and go without punishment or fear. I like how they put this too. Why smart people can join cults. So, you don't have to be completely weak or ignorant, but you can be smart as well and still get manipulated because manipulation runs very deep. A common myth is that only weak or unintelligent intelligent people join cults. In reality, cults often target people seeking purpose or belonging, those going through life changes, idealistic, curious, or empathetic individuals. Cults are effective because they exploit human needs, not because members lack intelligence. How to protect yourself. To avoid cult-like groups, ask questions and notice how they are received. Seek outside opinions and information. Maintain relationships outside the group. Trust discomfort and pressure as warning signs. Take your time before committing. Something discourages you from thinking freely or living independently. Pause and reassess. Thoughts. Awareness is protection. Cults thrive on secrecy, control, and silence. Learning the signs of a cult empowers you to recognize manipulation early and make informed decisions. Healthy communities encourage growth, independence, and open dialogue. They don't require fear, isolation, or unquestioning loyalty. If a group demands control over your thoughts, relationships, or identity, that's not belonging. That's a warning sign. Wow, what a great article. And this is from DianeBotatherapy.com, and it is down below in the description for you guys. You guys can check it out anytime. So now we're going to go into talking about some part of could be a cult. Experience where no one can question them and no one can tell them any different than what they know and say. Members being used or exploited with really no return. Rigid set of beliefs where anything outside of it is demonic or no good. They mess with your mind, gaslighting. There's a weapon. Fear about the future, fear of God, fear of doing wrong. Apocalyptic predictions. They call that Armageddon software. Psychological programming to put people in fear of the future and to put people in fight or flight mode. If you disagree with the leader, then you're in big trouble. They control what you learn. Deceptive recruitment methods. Asserting blind loyalty. Your behavior change, drain your finances because of quote-unquote donations and supporting the cause without even trying to support. Lack of transparency. Leaders with a God complex. Frequent use of guilt and shame. Think about those, like the church leaders that, will guilt guilt the women that are being abused and continue to too many situations like that. Breath, every moment, you have that light of life sitting inside of you. You are the living temple. You are the living temple. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and get us fired up. A video of someone else talking about religious cults. And if you guys have any experiences or anything else you would like to share as well, any of these focuses that we have had today, feel free to let me know. Drop it in the comments, because this is really powerful knowledge and information to share for each other, and it could be more subtle than we think. And I'm all about helping us be able to acquire our inner power and really be able to stand our sovereignty with the Creator and our free will. And it is Wednesday today, so coming up later today, 4:44 p.m. Eastern, you guys will be able to tune in with Phoenix Returns for the Galactic Wave Spell and Gene Keys on Unite the 144. And later tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, the Raw Material Law of One, Sandy Marshall. All right. So this is someone else's podcast, and he's talking about 7 signs your church might be a cult.
Is your church in a cult? Yeah, I'm asking it. Let's not act like some of these sanctuaries are not hostage situations with a good gospel track. Today, we're going over the 7 things that could be going on in your church that might make it a cult. Now, I want you to stick around because number 7 happens more often than we would probably all like to admit. Are y'all ready? Number 1, you can't question the leader. If disagreeing with the pastor is treated like rebellion against God himself, run. That's not leadership, that's control. If you cannot ask a question, maybe push a little harder, if you cannot be in disagreement with your leader without being deemed rebellious or contrary, you very well might be in a cult. And that's just not in scripture. Even how you run your house. It's always great to receive wisdom from those that we follow. But if you have to lose your autonomy to follow him or her or them, you might be in a cult. Number 2, you're guilted for missing church. You got to spend some extra time with your kids because maybe their grades are slacking. And you go to the pastor or your appointed leader and tell them that, and they make you or try to get you to question your faith, question your allegiance to God and God's people and God's institution, the church, because for the next semester or so, you won't be at Bible study, or you won't be able to make winter revival because your child has a concert or a sport event. If those actions put you against God, you might be in a cult. Number 3, they isolate you from outsiders. Friends, family, even other churches get labeled as worldly or dangerous. Don't go over there to that apostolic, those Jesus-only people. We better not go over there. They baptize in the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. That's a women preacher over there. You can't get no word from a woman preacher. And I'm being light of it, but there are some serious things. The person that's always moving people to their zip code, moving people to their city. Come to my city. You got better opportunity. There's even preachers who preach that you shouldn't go home for Thanksgiving or Christmas and spend time with your family. You should be spending time with your church family. Anything like that, you might be in a cult. All right. Before we go forward, because again, number 7 is going to be good. Do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, and comment. If you are enjoying this content, do me a favor, please, and like, share, subscribe, and comment. Are y'all ready for number 4? Everything is about sacrifice, but mostly your sacrifice. You are not giving enough. I give all the time. I preach the word of God. You can't put value on the word of God, but where's your tithe at? I didn't see your name, your name on the first fruit roll. And don't even get me started on the preachers that watch who gives during pastor's anniversary. And you are treated accordingly by how much you gave during the anniversary. If your church is full of nothing but sacrificing, while it seems as though your leader is chilling, living comfortable and unbothered, you might be in a cult. Now, let me say this as well. I understand volunteering in your local church, but some churches take advantage of volunteers. If you are pulling a part-time hours at your church, you are being, in my opinion, taken advantage of as a volunteer. 20 hours a week? Let me keep going. No transparency, number 5, with the money. If you can't ask where the offering is going without being called a troublemaker, the math ain't math and the spirit ain't spiriting. Your church should have full transparency when it comes to the finances. And you should be able to ask about it, especially if that church is a 501c3 compliant organization. Those churches especially should post or have a accessibly public document called an annual report every year that anyone should be able to request and see, especially if you're a tithe and offering giving member. So if your church is 501c3 compliant and they are not allowing you to see the annual report, they are not in compliance. For them that like to preach, obey them that have rule over you. Number 6. There's always a them to fear. There's always a them to fear. Don't be fellowshipping with your coworkers during break. You're going to catch a spirit. No, don't go to that Beyonce concert. Now, why y'all watching that movie? Don't let your kids go to the party. There's always a them to fear. Why? Because if you can instill fear in somebody, you can almost guarantee their obedience. So this person is going to be a preacher that is fear-filled in their preaching. Number 7, and in my opinion, one of the more common ones. The leader claims exclusive revelation. Nobody else is teaching like this. Go out there, you leave this church. They ain't preaching the word like they're preaching over here. I am your prophet. There ain't nobody that's going to be able to speak over your life like I speak over your life. You only got one spiritual father. And until that spiritual father die, you must stick with that spiritual father. God only speaks to me about this generation. Or God only speaks to me about you. These other prophets don't know how to prophesy to you. I birthed you out. As if some ownership. If you have a leader like that, you very well might be in a cult. Now, if any of this is sounding too familiar, I'm not saying pack your bags today, but I am saying open your eyes, please. God is not insecure. I think I'll say that again. God is not insecure. And you don't need to be controlled to be covered. I'm going to say that again as well. You don't need to be controlled to be covered. Stay woke in the spirit, my friends. If you have enjoyed this, do me a quick favor and like, share, subscribe, and comment. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. I come live on this page at least 3 to 4 times a week. Text V Terrell Hill to 833-458-3658 to be notified when I come live. If you've enjoyed this today and you want to support this platform, Cash App is Safe Space VTH. PayPal and Zelle is info@vterrellhill.com, and the Venmo is @vterrellhill. Okay, email me. I answer all of my emails. Email me at info@vterrellhill.com. Until the next time, y'all be blessed. Peace.
All right. So our final screen share reading is going to be from ascensionglossary.com. And this is hosted, and the author is Lisa Renee, a galactic pioneer. And shout out to Lisa Renee for such beautiful work that she provides for us. Now, we're going to talk about an even darker and deeper level of cult energy that transpires on planet Earth. Now, this is death cult ideology. This ties in with the cabal, the banking networks, the oil industries, the governments, as well as Hollywood and celebrities. Now, knowledge of the truth and seeing the larger picture in events holds power in the current chaotic terrain of weaponizing the controlled narratives based on these methods of ideological subversion and political correctness. If the groupthink and its rules are not adhered to be an individual, they can be targeted with methods of aggressive victimizer attacking, including hurled threats, intimidation, as well as forms of public shaming and character assassination. Thus, when dark forces seek to gain control over others, they I've always had trouble saying this word. It's like a tongue twister. Compartmentalize information, which is basically when they fracture and divide up your mind into fragments, and you're not able to see the connection within things. And will always deceive those they perceive as lesser or an adversary, demanding blind obedience and appeasement to their falsehoods. Dark entities always deny their involvement when caught in the act and never tell the whole truth. Instead, they shroud any small kernels of truth in a massive bed of lies, which makes it much harder to discern. Those that believe bold-faced lying to other people for the purpose of manipulation or ideological subversion or religious conversion are dancing with the devil and are inverted in Satanism. There is no rightfulness found in complex deceptions. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the details of Luciferian and Satanic cults in terms of their ideologies. We're going to take a side road and discuss these forces in more detail, and more specifically, the people in power that are in the Luciferian families that are worshiping Lucifer or Satan. So we can define this by saying they are in a death cult, and the influence as the death culture that they have generated. And many humans have gone along with this, not understanding what is happening to the human culture. Most people do not understand the death cult and why these people worship demonic forces such as Lucifer or Satan, why they sacrifice children, why they have sex with children, why they drink human blood and engage in satanic ritual abuse and sex magic rituals. This is much bigger than just believing these people are criminal psychopaths and mentally deranged as clearly as they are, but they are also ruthless predators, completely self-consumed and negative ego. And this goes directly into the awareness of these forces, the non-human forces we call the NAA. And now these activities have been groomed in these families as a way of contacting these forces and bringing them into the earth, bringing them into possession of human souls, and how this exchange is made by achieving ultimate power, control, and wealth by making agreements to be bound to these negative forces of Luciferian and Satanic classes. Now, when we're talking about Luciferian and Satanic, we're talking about beings that choose to stay in the negative vibration, and they choose to take energy from others in service to self. That is part of polarity. We're talking about polarities here. And then we talk about Luciferian. Luciferian is when you're so far in the light that you're rejecting darkness. So the Luciferian is those cult leaders that basically say, you need to follow my words, and my words are the words of God. And if you don't follow my words, then you are no longer a part of the light. You know, like that's a Luciferian type of phrase. So there's a difference there. The Satanic is like sacrificing, trafficking, doing weird stuff with children, all type of aggressive, warlike tactics. The Luciferians kind of like the glitz and glamour on the outside while manipulating on the inside. And that's where we walk the balance. We walk the Christ consciousness. These are just polarities, and it's part of this third dimension. So it's nothing that we're supposed to be, quote unquote, afraid of, but we're supposed to be aware so we know what we're navigating through because it's happening. So the negative agenda protects the death cult. The NAA, which is the negative entities or the negative star beings, they are protecting these families and all the people in the syndicate that are loyal to these families. We could go right to the billionaire club, the billionaires that have accumulated the wealth in order to run the death cult agenda in the earth for the purpose of a full-scale invasion and body snatching of the inhabitants. They receive massive amounts of loose energy from satanic ritual abuse activities from these families, from child sacrifice, from wars, from genocides, from blood rituals. It's the symbolic relationship that binds the controllers with the off-planet negative agenda overlords, as well as the bottom feeders of these demonic hierarchies that exist in the earth body itself. Now, these people, especially at the top, understand the spiritual anatomy of human beings and how human beings are light beings, have a body, mind, and spirit. They hide the knowledge for themselves, and they've hidden this for thousands and thousands of years. And when they will leverage this knowledge in using reversals, law of reversals, in order to steal resources and inner light away from human beings, these people are in the cults, and they will never stop their activities. So the most productive thing to do is to educate ourselves to better understand them, understand their psychology, so we can vanquish them and their kind from maintaining their control and power over this earth. These are the enemies of humanity, all of humanity. In order to vanquish and spiritually heal the predatorial enemy of humanity, we have to understand them. Now again, when I say the enemy of humanity, the Christ has no enemy, but it is important to understand who these people are, what they want to achieve and do, and it is far away from the mind of a balanced and sane individual that we have to understand how they think. They think of themselves as our enemy. Humans are the enemy to them. So it's important to understand that doesn't mean we want to kill them or cause physical harm to them, or that we have ideas of personal vanities of carrying out justice. We just need to learn how to hold compassionate witness and the love of God inside our heart for the ignorance. But I hope to help you to understand how they think, why they do things that they do, how they keep a massive syndicate of pedophile rings, money laundering, human trafficking, and many other criminal actions veiled from us. There's a psychology as well as a biospiritual layer behind SRA, meaning it's a science with our biology and understanding our spiritual layers. They know how it works. In order to carry this out and influence the culture from a covert, hidden, and occult perspective, they have evolved themselves or digressed themselves into masters of deception, masters of giving false impressions. They are master gaslighters. And the people involved in cult worship, they worship the same principles. They carry out the same deceptions to the masses. The Luciferian cult is ancient, and as we are all aware, the NA invasion about 5,500 years ago, the original rebellion was 26,000 years ago. So this is an ancient religion and practice since the invasion. They have been steering our Earth and shaping the planetary culture into death culture in order to make the Earth more hospitable for them. So the original use of the title Lucifer originates from the collective races that are actually sourcing the Nibirian lines of Anunnaki races that further merged with the Thoth, Enki, Anunnaki, and fallen Syrian races. During the last rounds of angelic human seeding on the planet Earth, the Thoth, Enki, Anunnaki group entered into agreement with the Founder Guardians, which they requested rehabilitation through intending to participate in regenesis of their DNA. And so they said. However, these DNA regenesis and genetic spiritual programs were to begin. They immediately defected and joined other groups, genocidal programs against human beings. So consistently, their modus operandi for divide and conquer of Earth has demonstrated a ruthless psychological warfare that includes perpetuating falsity, deception, gaslighting tactics for their own agendas, designed for enslaving other species. They seek full domination and power, which is their most important value system, highest belief system, to which they remain loyal as service to self entities. So it talks about child sacrifice, talks about invoking Baphomet from the two-dimensional layer of Earth, which is the underworld. This also involves the shadow creatures and shadow beings and the phantom matrix, which then also brings in the clones and the false identities of our ascended masters. Then it talks about the power elite families, 13 primary bloodlines. Talks about connections with Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and the Rockefeller family. So, what is service to self? Service to self. So, in certain stages of newly developing consciousness, in order to promote the forward growth of the individual, the soul spirit throughout many dimensionalized identities, The service to self, or negative polarity, is necessary and a natural part of the mechanics of creation when seeding a new race consciousness. However, what has happened on planet Earth during this last dark cycle is not merely a service to self, negative polarization of free will and chosen states of consciousness of the soul. Through negative alien invasion of the planet Earth, through the genetic alteration of human and planetary DNA, installation of alien machinery to install frequency fences and NET, the negative agenda to implant humanity with mind control, alien implants, is a bio-warfare strategy to control the planet, humanity, and the soul through direct holographic inserts which alter, modify, and damage DNA. What has occurred to humanity is not a simple result of choice made to service the self. The negative agenda objective is an intended annihilation of the human species, original DNA, and obliteration from existence by erasing the historical record from this universe. Wow. Consumerism and materialistic value system. So, as a collective society, we have been fed disinformation and conditioning towards believing in these mass deceptions and lies about the absolute nature of 3D material reality as the only reality that matters in existence. With a material and consumer oriented reality base, upon accumulation, people lend to default into service to self behaviors and death culture vibration. As individuals, we also have been predominantly conditioned by the cultural environment to respond to others around us with misleading information and dishonesty in order to achieve personal goals or desires that are based solely on the consumer material value system. In the service to self value system, the socially engineered death culture rewards those who act as the impersonators, essentially as predators, liars, and bad actors, people that intentionally deceive others that are more vulnerable for their own strategic advantage. In the current reality, if a human reinforces the controller agenda and plays service to self games, is a predatory liar and disinformation agent to gain advantage over others, he or she will greatly reward it on the material plane. The only way to stop rewarding liars in one's life is to see them in action and commit to banish the lies, possibly confronting or evicting the people and dark entities that continue to spread lies and disinformation in order to serve themselves. Most people are conditioned to lie without comprehending the impact and the result that the energetic vibration of lies and deception will generate in our lives. They do not want to see how the vibration of dishonesty ripples outward to impact many others, such as influencing the lives of their loved ones. While there are many reasons for lying, most people lie for their own personal advantage, to gain financial or economic benefit, to escape and avoid confrontation with other people, and to cover up mistakes that hide unflattering information. Wow. And talks about how the masses are fed spoonfuls of deception and falsehood by the power elites, collected through wealth, celebrity, fame, status, lack of empathy. Definitely something to read about someone's body language is, do they lack empathy as well, especially as a leader? Okay. So, I got your family members could be doing cult-like behaviors.
Does your family feel more like a prison than a place of love and support? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells or sacrificing your peace to keep the family together? A family is meant to be a place of support, trust, and love. But sometimes it can feel controlling, secretive, or isolating, almost like a cult. In this video, we're going to talk about the signs that your family might be acting more like a cult than a supportive unit. Let's begin. Isolation from the outside world. According to Dr. Stephanie, a family counselor and clinical social worker, families with a cult-like mindset often see outsiders as a threat. They may teach you not to trust others from a young age and expect you to rely only on the family, never trusting anyone outside of it. You might be discouraged from making close friends or bonding emotionally with anyone outside the family. If someone new, like a partner or friend, doesn't fit into the family's way of thinking, they're often pushed away. But isolation isn't the only way families can exert control. The rules can't be questioned. In some families, certain people are seen as always right and their word is final. If you question them, you might be guilt-tripped, lashed out at, or even punished. In healthy families, everyone's opinions are heard and open conversations are encouraged. When that's not the case, it can leave you feeling like your voice doesn't matter. This isn't how you should feel in a loving family. If this sounds familiar, you can start by journaling your thoughts or seeking advice from someone you trust outside the family dynamics to gain perspective. Secrets are more important than honesty. You might hear things like, "What happens in this family stays in this family," for instance. If a parent insists you hide their bad behavior, like a drinking problem, constant arguments, or even abuse, and says, "Don't you dare tell anyone, this is family business," it prioritizes secrecy over your well-being. Cult-like families insist on keeping everything private, even when there are serious problems. Talking about family problems might be seen as betrayal, but real love doesn't demand silence at the cost of your mental health. You're always walking on eggshells. Do you constantly watch what you say or do to avoid upsetting someone? For instance, your father is in a bad mood today, so you tiptoe around the house avoiding making noise or asking him anything because you're worried it might set him off. In a healthy family, you wouldn't have to live in fear of someone's mood dictating your actions. If you feel like the smallest mistake could lead to tension or arguments, it's not a healthy family dynamic. In a healthy family, you feel safe to express yourself without fear or criticism or conflict. Love shouldn't make you feel anxious all the time. Sacrificing your needs to fix or save others. Taking care of family members is important, but it should never come at the expense of your own well-being. You can't pour from an empty cup. Helping others doesn't mean ignoring your needs or becoming responsible for their choices. For example, if your sibling constantly gets into financial trouble and you keep giving them money, even though it's affecting your own ability to pay bills or save, that's sacrificing your well-being to fix their problem. Supporting them is important, but it shouldn't come at the cost of your own stability. Love comes with strings attached. It's like being a puppet where their approval pulls the strings on your happiness. In families like this, you might only feel loved or accepted when you're doing what they want. Maybe you've been asked to sacrifice your needs, dreams, or even relationships to keep the family happy. That's not love, that's control. Remaining loyal to destructive patterns. Family loyalty shouldn't mean upholding traditions or dynamics that cause harm. For instance, imagine a family where every disagreement ends in yelling and hurtful words or silent treatments. Over time, This becomes the normal way to handle conflict, even though it hurts everyone involved. Breaking this pattern means being the first to suggest healthier ways to communicate, like talking calmly or seeking help. Growth often requires challenging the status quo and breaking free from behaviors that no longer serve you or your loved ones. Attending events that derail your healing process. Do you ever feel guilty for setting boundaries? Ask yourself, is that guilt coming from love or control? For example, your family invites you to a holiday gathering where toxic behaviors are always present. People argue, criticize, and blame each other, or bring up past issues that set you back in your healing. You feel guilty for not attending, but prioritizing your mental health by setting that boundary doesn't mean you love your family any less. It means you're taking care of yourself. You don't necessarily have to be at gatherings that harm your emotional well-being. Setting boundaries is a way of showing love for yourself. Image over reality. On the outside, everything looks perfect. Smiling photos, grand gestures, and family traditions. But behind closed doors, they hide problems to protect their reputation, even if it hurts the people inside. This pressure to keep up appearances can make you feel like your feelings or struggles don't matter. If you feel forced to act like everything's fine, it might be time to choose honesty over appearances. True love shouldn't feel like a performance. Avoiding the truth to keep the peace. You find yourself bending the truth or avoiding honest conversations to prevent arguments because it might seem easier at the moment, but it creates a false sense of harmony. It keeps real issues buried and relationships shallow. True peace comes from addressing conflicts with care and respect, not ignoring them. There should be honest communication in a family. It builds trust and allows for genuine growth. If you can relate to most of these signs, it doesn't mean your family is bad, but it does mean there's work to be done. Recognizing these patterns is a huge step towards breaking free from control and finding your voice. Start small. Set boundaries where you can talk to someone you trust or seek help from a professional. Healing is possible, and it starts with understanding that you deserve love without conditions. Have you ever felt trapped by family expectations or dynamics? How did you find freedom? Share your story. It might inspire someone to take their first step toward healing. Thanks for being here, and see you soon.
So yeah, believe it or not, cult-like behavior comes in all shapes and sizes, from family to church to job to even university or school. And then it can even move into spiritual communities as well as donation-based organizations. So basically, there can be these behaviors taking place anywhere in any corner that we turn. And with that being said, and what we know as common facts of the state of the world and what has been transpiring in the negative frequencies and the shadows of humanity, when we talk about children, when we talk about women, when we talk about what is going on behind closed doors with Hollywood and other celebrities and idols. I mean, it's all right here in front of us. So just remember that the more that we become aware, the more that we do not give in to mimicking the behaviors and supporting the behaviors of these ways of life, then that is how we can do justice and bring back our power, is by not duplicating these behaviors, not continuing to give time and energy to believing in and giving power to these false authorities and crimes against humanity type of ways. And the more you find safe community, those that are like-minded like yourself, have the same type of intentions for the world, then you will be able to receive the support necessary to help you be able to transition out of these kinds of groups and these kind of places that are controlling and manipulating. So with that being said, I'm going to end this off with a video with this guy that is going to talk about his experiences and just what he went through coming out of and leaving a cult-like environment that he was a part of. And with that, I will see you guys next time, and take care. Reach out if you have any questions, if you need any support. Just know that I'm here. I'm also someone that you can talk to receive guidance and support. One love.
Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm from Philadelphia. I was a social justice warrior until 2022 when I read Cynical Theories, and it ruined my life. So thank you for that. It's been ruined in a great way, though. My question is for people like myself who find themselves waking up in the cult still, like with a woke job, woke friendships, relationships, very deeply in. What advice do you have for how to move forward with life?
All right, so this is like, I mean, not that I'm taking this position relative to you, but this is like kind of very gruff dad advice. Like, you're not, like, it's the simple advice is buckle up. There's no easy way, right? I wasn't a social justice warrior. I was just a general overeducated leftard. And the process of starting to admit that, wait, maybe this is really bad, maybe this goes too far, whoops, maybe this is actually Marxist, whoops, I'm going to vote for Trump. Ooh, boy, did we shed some people? Did we get canceled for some things? It's a rough process. It's a hurtful process. It's a painful process. Because if you ask me, having gone through it to at least a modest degree, luckily I was insulated from the woke job part, which I think would have been really hard. I was not insulated from the woke family part. I was not insulated from the woke peer group or friend group part. I was not isolated from the woke professional opportunities through the internet part, why I point at my internet portal here. And I got, turned on by a lot of people. I think that what I learned in the process is that what you're shedding is fake friends. And you're shedding, what you're dealing with aren't opportunities. They're situations in which you have to compromise yourself in order to be allowed to participate. And so I had this moment, I don't remember if it was in 20, it had to be in 20. It was very early on, but not before George Floyd. So it must have been in 20, where I realized that what I was actually going through, while it was awful and really, really, in many cases, cruel, was the feeling of taking chains off. Like, I no longer had to be accountable to these people who made me walk on eggshells all the time about how I said things. I no longer had to be accountable to whether or not, some joke that I made in good-natured fun was going to be perceived as like this horrific moment. It was just this moment where I realized that all the abuse I was putting up with, which sucks, those people, they lost all their power over me, because what they were actually doing was giving me the gift of, I don't have to take you seriously anymore. I don't have to live by your pieties anymore. And I think it's a difficult process. I mean, simultaneously, if you wake up, so I was never woke, right? I was a general leftard, but not a woke, which is a little bit different. Woke is actually what red pilled me. Right? And so I don't have it as deep because woke is straight up a cult, and they treat you like you're left Scientology or something. If you bounce out of woke, they chase you down, they hound you. It can be really bad, and they will cut you out of your life. And you may lose as many because you probably cut a lot of other people out of your life being woke. You may lose 95% of your social group and your professional opportunities, and everything has to be recontoured. I think it's better to live life through that truth rather than crawl along in a lie. Especially, it's intolerable if you know you're lying. But it's not easy, right? And like I said, I feel like I was taking off these chains and I started to see it as a gift. And then I started to realize in the next year or so that every time I tell the truth when it seems uncomfortable to do so, my life gets better. And every time I don't, I feel ashamed of myself. And usually it doesn't even achieve getting what I want or hope to get out of it. So I encourage you to just continue to live honestly and truthfully, to speak up and to, look for good opportunities where they are and, build something more productive and positive. If you are in, you have a ton of light to shed on how it works on the inside. So there are a lot of different places that, you could get involved. If it's in a setting like this, that's fine. If it's a setting where you get a regular job and you help, a company that doesn't want to be woke, and you help HR navigate how to protect itself from woke in a private setting, that's also great. There's a lot of things that specific skill set can bring. But learning to see it as being set free from a social imposition, as painful as it is one way, and then being involved, coming to things like this and talking to people, because you start making new friends. And all of a sudden you don't have this weird, am I the one who's wrong? I'm the only one, I know. No, you'll find out there are thousands and thousands and thousands, or actually millions and millions of people who either are like you or are like, I don't know about all this, but I'm too afraid to say it. And you get to become a light in the world rather than a piece of the shadow. So it's really, I think, a fantastic but difficult transformation. It's almost like the Christian idea of repentance, and you're like taking pieces of your soul back from what you sacrificed in order to fit in. I tell young people a lot that every lie you tell to fit in is selling a piece of your soul. And that's what woke demands you to do. It demands you to say false things to fit in, and it demands you to say true things as a condition of being able to fit in. Like, nobody doubts that black people's lives matter, but we all had to say Black Lives Matter or else you're a bad person. They forced you to say something obvious. That's tyranny. And nobody has to participate in it. They're humiliating you to make you do stuff like that. And so start to try to see how it's literally a setting free from an abusive condition. It's a lot like not just leaving a cult, but like leaving an abusive relationship, and you're still getting probably the harassing phone calls from your ex, so to speak. Those stop eventually, they get bored eventually, and you can go on and shine. And there's lots of people here to make friends with who I know that there are a lot of people who would like to hear your story, so it's something worth organizing and telling too.